It's a pleasure to have you. I am a big fan of yours. I read everything you write. I saw all of your videos because you have this um, financial education. I don't have it. I am just a normal entrepreneur that through my ups and downs, I understand the cost of the money. And then to
Yeah,
do what I do right now, I
yeah.
went to more than 45 countries to understand the cost of the money. But
Mhm.
first of all, who is Melissa? In Brazil, we always ask our guests to present themselves because we don't want to be unpolite. This is a
Mhm.
Brazilian way of doing. So, who is Melissa?
Well, from who am I? I'm just really a normal person who has taken an interest in the economy. I did study economics at school. I did A-level economics, but my degree is actually in theology. Primarily, I became more interested around the 2008 collapse. I was at an age where I was starting to think about pensions. And that's where I really started doing my research into what was going on. I managed to get an A-level in economics without ever finding out how money is created. So I started finding the whole thing very interesting, that you're not being told the reality of the situation. I think if everybody realized, if they had a basic 101 in economics, there would be a revolution tomorrow, in my opinion.
So, it's all about education. So,
Mhm.
it seems that they're not educating us, they're manipulating us to become stupid. So we pay our kids to go to school to become stupid.
Well, when you consider who sets the curriculum, that's what they want you to know. So if you're lucky, you manage to get out of school without them managing to educate the intelligence out of you, because they want you indoctrinated into their system. That's the whole point of the schooling system. We're really learning this through the medical side of things, that what is perceived as alternative wasn't alternative 200 years ago. That's what medicine was, but now it's perceived as alternative, and it's really being shut down as if there's only one form of medicine. I don't agree that there's one form of anything, but with economics and the money supply, if they were to teach a 5-year-old that money is created out of debt, it's created out of nowhere, and there's a certain portion of the population that can create the money, and the other portion of the population get to borrow that money with interest, even a 5-year-old would question um, how that is a fair system, because it's not a fair system. But the thing about currency is it works really well as long as nobody questions it. When people start to question it, which is happening right now, it falls apart really quickly. And that's where we are right now. Every fiat currency has returned to zero. The average last 27 years. We are in a currency collapse right now, and it's something that is just not being discussed at all in the media.
Yeah, I think that the most important thing is to understand that money is a product. No one ever told us that money is a product. So, who developed this product? Who designed this product? And with what purpose? So, a telephone is developed by Apple, and it is for a purpose to call, to make, to send messages. So I think this is the most important question. Is money a product? And if it is, who owns it and who make the rules for the money?
Well, fiat currency is a product. It's only a currency by decree, as in the government says that it is so. What money actually is a representation of goods and services in the economy and labor. So when you are storing or saving money, that is a preservation of your sweat equity for future use. Traditionally, it was in the form of silver and gold, because there is a tether to that. There is only, I think there's 2 Olympic swimming pool size. That's the amount of all the gold that's in the world. So there was something to tether that. You couldn't excess print that. So that was your store of sweat equity. With this current system, It was originally pegged to, the dollar is the reserve currency, that was pegged to gold, which meant that they couldn't overprint, but they were overprinting. France called them out and sent in a battleship. And then in 1971, Nixon took the dollar as reserve currency off the gold standard, meaning there was nothing to tether it anymore. It became a fiat currency, and in a fiat currency, they can print at will. Now, you can't print houses and cars and oil, but you can print paper to buy those. But with the way money printing works, inflation, money creation is inflation. The consequence is higher prices. The reason with the quantitative easing and the money printing back in 2008 onwards, the reason that it didn't really have an inflationary effect is that it wasn't helicoptered right into the population. With the current situation, with the money printing, it's been given straight to the population. This is what is creating this inflationary environment. Inflation tends to track, monetary policy tends to track about 12 to 18 months lag time. So what we're seeing now is the effects of decisions that were made 12 to 18 months ago in terms of money printing. It's not, yes, the situation in Russia and Ukraine is going to have, inflation isn't exclusive to money creation, but money creation is inflationary. So yes, with the situation in Russia with a reduction in supply, that is going to exaggerate the problem of inflation. And we are currently in a superinflation, and that can very easily tip over to hyperinflation, which we're starting to see now. We're seeing Lanka, we're seeing the prices increase, fuel prices increase 60% within 24 hours, bread increased 30% within 24 hours. That's the hyperinflation situation. And we are really in danger of tipping over into that now. Hyperinflation won't last. It's not going to be indefinite, and the far side of that is more likely going to be a deflationary economy. But we have hard times ahead of us. And this was all, they were aware of this from 2008. 2008, the system died due to the debt-based, we're in a debt-based economy right now, meaning that money is created from debt. So if you want more money, you have to have more debt. If you want less debt, you have to have less money. That's the way this current system works. This is why they have encouraged you to find new creative ways to get into debt. It started just with mortgages, and then it was car loans, and then it was loans for furniture, student loans, everything. You can get a loan now at this stage for absolutely everything, because that's what expanded the economy. But that collapsed under the weight of its own corruption and greed in 2008. They never fixed the problems in 2008. They just kicked the can down the road until 2019. In August 2019, there was a meeting at Jackson Hole. That was the bankers and economists, where BlackRock kind of put forward the idea. They anticipated a crisis in August 2019, and should there be a crisis, the central banks would go direct, meaning almost cut out the commercial banks. You would have an account with the central bank. 1 month later, there was a crisis in the repo market. That's like the overnight lending, money lending market. Generally, they lend at about 2%. It's to balance their books, and then it starts off a new day and everything's settled again that evening. That shot up to 10%. So there was uncertainty within the banking system. That's when the money printing actually started, in the September 2019. 1 month later, you have Event 201, and then we have the Wuhan situation coming around December, and then the lockdowns coming around March. So for me, from my perspective, it was a financial lockdown. The economy was so overheated that it was at risk of blowing up completely, and they had to release that pressure by just suppressing the entire economy. while they figured out.
Yes, you have someone to blame. You have someone to blame, right?
Yes. Well, this is the thing. The money printing, they had an excuse then for the money printing this crisis, rather than the real reason for the money printing was yet again another banking crisis, because they never fixed the systemic problem from 2008. And the problem was before then, but that's when it blew up in 2008.
Yeah, because it's always in every 7 years there is a crisis, or there's a war, or there's a crisis, or there's something going on. I come from Brazil, and before real, we had inflation of 30% a week. It was super crazy, and we changed money since I was a little girl. We changed money 5 times. The currency, they changed the money, and they were taking zeros off.
Yes.
Because I remember we're paying with, I don't know, 1 million reais to buy a coffee. It was super crazy. And then when the plano real came, this is where Brazil were sold for the Rockefeller system, for Soros. This is when Brazil was sold. And this is why we are in such a terrible situation in Brazil. Terrible. So, but explaining about, we have 2 crises here. We have a financial crisis, but we also have a value crisis, because our world, our values are upside down. So we're being manipulated by this media regarding everything. Everything we do, we're being manipulated, and everything goes virus in 5 seconds due to the digital opportunities here. So how do you describe this war? Why this war came now after COVID?
Are you talking about the Russia-Ukraine war, or just the war on humanity as?
No, Russia and Ukraine. Now this war.
Why not?
This war is doing to Europe?
Well, for Russia and Ukraine, there is a war, a currency war going on between the BRICS nations and the WEF nations. I think Putin did a paper, he did a thesis years ago in regards to resources are what's actually valuable, not a currency.
It was 2014 that he started.
So he is, yeah, he is very aware, and he has the backing of China, particularly China and India. If you take China, India, and Russia, you're talking about almost 50% of the population. Russia does not need Europe. Europe needs Russia. So these sanctions, I mean, surely it could have been predicted. He would have predicted that the sanctions would have been brought forward. That forces the WEF nations into an economic war. Now, is Russia capable of a military war? Yes, with the weapons that they have, they are very capable. But such like war has the possibility of wiping out all, if not a portion, of humanity. So it's not a war that we want to get into. So it was more strategic. It was an economic war. Being aware of the sanctions, it was, I think, Biden came out and he was going to reduce the ruble to rubble. What Putin did was temporarily back the ruble to gold. That stabilized the ruble, and the ruble is now higher than it was beforehand. Russia has gold. Russia has rare earth metals. Russia has the fuel that is needed by China. So in terms of a commodities basket, to move away from a fiat currency that is backed by absolutely nothing, it does seem to me that the BRICS nations are moving towards either backed by certain commodities. You don't know what it could be a commodities basket, but them having the, as I say, the gold, they have the gold, they have the rare earths. Rare earths are crucial to technology. and the BRICS nations are the leaders of the rare earths. They're also, the BRICS nations, China, Russia, they're putting in, India as well, the nuclear power plants. The West can be left in a technological darkness if they do not have access to these rare earths, and they're not building their own energy plants, which they're not doing. So there's a kind of an attempt to take over in terms of universal basic income and control, because when you realize that the currency is backed by nothing and you're in a currency collapse, what situation is your particular country in? What has your country got to offer in terms of resources? Because at this stage, America is, for me, there are people who arguing against you. I would say the day that sanctions were imposed against Russia was the day, I think you look back in history and see that as the day that the dollar lost reserve status. America doesn't produce
especially with the BRICS power. Brazil is into BRICS. Uniting Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
Yeah,
we're superpower, extremely power. But how come countries that have all these natural resources cannot move forward? They are always stuck with the debts that they have with Fed. What is Fed? Can you explain what is Fed from a normal entrepreneur from Brazil? What is Fed? And how come they rule the cost of the money or the money?
With the way the money is created, like I say, it's created from debt. The question is always, who do we owe the money to? For me, it's fictional. It's not actually real. It's a concept rather than a reality. And I feel that was more or less proved in the 2008 collapse, when the money was given to the banks to bail out the banks, but it was really only done on balance sheets and on paper. It's almost like we're borrowing from future generations. So the debt-based system was a monetary experiment that has failed. We are no longer going to be in that system, and it doesn't matter BRICS or WEF, we're moving completely away from that system. We're moving into a system of credits. So they don't want you to be a consumer anymore, because if you look at any commodities, they were always like that until about 200 years ago, and it just absolutely went like that for everything. So their perception is that there's shortages, so we need to ration these out, and we need to put a hold on this energy usage and resources. On every single resource has taken just an absolute upward move. So they're looking towards more giving you an allowance. This is the concept behind the whole carbon credits that will be linked to social credits for obedience, and then you'll be given an allowance for everything. That is the whole IMF concept of you will eat with less meat, you will own nothing, and you will be happy. That's what they're moving into. They're looking for a new system. Their old system, it's not that it was broken, it did what it was designed to do and expanded the economy and everything got built. But now that system cannot be maintained. We cannot continue to be consumers, because what's happening is the so-called third world countries are now being elevated in stature. So they want a piece of the pie. So there can't be this system of the West having all the luxuries at the expense of poorer countries. That system has come to an end. So they're moving us into a new system of credits and allowances and compliance. And that can be done through a central bank digital currency is essential to that. It's total control. And you link central bank digital currency to artificial intelligence, and that is an enslavement for, I can't see how humanity could get out of that level of enslavement.
Yeah. So the other day we're talking over the phone, because we were thinking about doing a FreedomeE cryptocurrency based on productivity. More people producing, selling, connecting. They're producing food, bags, everything they need
Yeah.
through the commodity, the community, and then make this own money. And then you said to me, Francesca, watch out for the cryptocurrencies. So can you please explain to a normal entrepreneur or woman, what is cryptocurrency and if it is a good thing to invest?
I personally have my reservations in regards to cryptocurrency. I think that I was always dubious at the time of Bitcoin coming out. It came out in 2009 after the 2008 collapse. It gathered traction fairly quickly through email, so I was always suspicious about who was behind it. For me, yes, has there been, do I have some? Yes. I think that it's a great way of, first of all, pulling money out of the economy. It's also figuring out the kinks and ironing out the kinks for moving forward into a central bank digital currency. It's given people that concept that money can exist behind a screen. The source of their power is that they have the monopoly on money and they have the monopoly on violence. For me to even fathom that they would have let cryptocurrency go this far and without shutting it down tells me that it's serving some sort of a purpose for them, because anything that challenges their power, they're going to shut down really quickly. The enemy of cryptocurrency is regulation, and it's actually quite easy to regulate because the way it's working right now, it has the potential to function as a currency. It does, but it's not being used that way. It's being used as a speculative asset. People are really only buying it with the idea that it's going to make them rich in terms of a fiat currency. So that's not functioning as a currency. And if it isn't introduced into functioning as a proper currency very quickly, it's going to be very easily quashed, because all they have to do is close the on and off ramps. So if I was to go and buy Bitcoin today, that's going to be a transaction from my bank and to purchase the Bitcoin. So if they close that on ramp, I can no longer buy Bitcoin. Now for the Bitcoin, we'll just take Bitcoin as an example. There's many, many cryptocurrencies. If I want to buy a BMW with my Bitcoin, I have to transfer it, sell it, and move it back into fiat currency. So that's the off ramp. So they can close the off ramp, or they can tax you at 50% in the off ramp. We've seen that escalate in America. It started off that you had to just disclose if you had traded in cryptocurrency. Now it's if you have bought, sold, been gifted, and you have to tick yes or no. If you fail to, that is a felony charge. You combine that with them going after Coinbase. They wanted the users of Coinbase. Coinbase did not want to give them up because there was going to be a lengthy court case. They give up 20 to 30,000 of their most prolific users. So therefore, they can go after them and get them on felony charges. So how they're going to attack all cryptocurrencies is through regulation. And when you regulate it or make it, they don't have to make it illegal. They could just tax it at 90% so that you can't buy it. I think that they're holding back on that because they don't want it to function as a currency. If they did that, there would be so much in the system that there's a possibility of it actually working within the system as a currency. It has potential, but when they make it illegal, the majority of people, as we have seen over this past 2 years, tend to be compliant and will go along. So I feel that those that hold cryptocurrency might face the same frustrations that we have faced over this past 2 years. So for me, I do have some. I'm curious. I would prefer something tangible, because with physical gold, physical silver, they cannot block me. They can make it illegal, which they've done before. But in terms of jewelry, it's difficult to make silver and gold illegal because it has aesthetic value in terms of jewelry. So you can't really make the jewelry part of it illegal. So it can be traded that way. So but there is the same problems we could have with silver and gold. We could have the same problems with crypto. But I think that crypto will be like the .com bubble all over again. Very much the same idea. All these concept cryptos popping up with ideas, but with nothing behind them to ground them. I would estimate probably 95% plus of them will be wiped out completely, and there will be ones that stay. And I mean, Amazon was a victim of the .com bubble, but it stayed around. So there will be ones that stay around. But I consider it a gamble, a speculative asset. I wouldn't, personally, I wouldn't put any of my savings into it. It was gambling that I put it in. I considered it a speculative asset, and that's how I have it based. I'm more a safe player in terms of savings. I think if you take what's happening in Russia right now, you see that they realize that it's resources, commodities that actually have value. It's not a zombie stock market that has no real function. It's a public utility. It's a concept for pensions that doesn't even exist. There's nothing to back it up. If you go for anything tangible, land, precious metals, collectibles, property, that's all real wealth. It's not numbers on a screen wealth. And we have been led into the hopium of numbers on a screen wealth with these cryptocurrencies. And there is the potential for people to lose everything and be in crisis. So I just think in terms of possession rather than what you perceive to be value.
Do you think that we can use a cryptocurrency and make it value from gold? Like when I develop the vision of FreedomeE, because I want people of producing wealth, producing wealth, and then this wealth, you go there and you invest in gold. But the value of the gold versus the value of a lot of people producing, selling, producing, and doing. How do you think that we can balance that?
You could create, if you had, because there is credit cards and stuff now that are backed by gold. And there's, if you look at fluid finance, they're kind of bridging the gap between banking and cryptocurrency. So if you had a cryptocurrency that was tethered back to gold, therefore it couldn't be exploited, you could create a framework of businesses that use that currency in trade and expand on that. So if you were selling handbags, producing handbags, shoes, whatever, that could all be used within that currency and grow that currency. And then you trade one currency into that currency to purchase the goods. So there is that potential with it. It would be, fiat currencies are no different. The only thing with Bitcoin, it has a mechanism to stabilize quantity because there's only 21 million. But then there's an issue with inflation is necessary to a degree because people lose their key to their cryptocurrency. So therefore there's less of it. Like same thing with notes, paper, people lose a certain amount. So there needs to be a small amount of inflation to just keep it balanced for where it was, but it doesn't have a mechanism to stabilize value. And that's where if something actually functioned as a currency rather than a speculative asset, it would start to stabilize the value of it. El Salvador, they did introduce Bitcoin as legal tender. Quite interesting that the app that people were using was actually not decentralized at all. It was 99% owned by the government, so not actually decentralized finance if you look into it at all. It was quite centralized, but 6 months later, and it has been a failure. Most businesses don't use it. I think only 3.6% of businesses said that they had any function for it at all. People aren't using it. It tends to be tourists that are using it. People are confused about the process of using it. So it's not actually working out. I think as well as that, there's only like 50% of people, I think in 2019, had internet. So it was a good place actually to roll out that concept, because it wasn't completely integral to the economy, but it's not being used. So that's an indication that the central bank digital currency is going to hit a lot of problems, because people aren't, there's so many people that aren't ready for that way of conducting business. So there will be chaos when they do. It's not a matter of if they introduce it, it's a matter of when. It's not an option in their new system. The only question and variable is how long will it last? You had the French assignat after the revolution that lasted 6 or 7 years before the king and queen and bankers were executed. So it's a question of how long will central bank digital currency last. If they do get in this system, they have, it's individual monetary policy. They have complete control over your life, your finances, your life. They can dictate where in the economy you can spend money. They can impose negative interest rates on your savings. So if you have £10,000 savings, they can impose, say, 10% negative interest rates. That becomes £9,000. They can do that on a monthly basis. They can decide that you've reached your allowance, your monthly allowance for meat, for fuel. We see that MasterCard, if you look on their website, they're now going to attach a carbon credit to every one of your purchases. And when you have reached your carbon limit, they will shut you off. That's on their website. So that's where we are moving towards. This level of control is only capable with central bank digital currency because this is programmable money. They can program it to the individual. They can decide that we think that you're drinking too much, we're going to shut you off from alcohol. We're going to shut you off from buying foods. We're going to shut you off from shopping outside of a 5-mile radius, from buying fuel outside of a 5-mile radius. It's unlimited control when this comes in. So that's, for me, I'm trying to create an awareness of where the system is going, and that's been brought in. It's already in China. They brought in the digital yuan, I think last October, and expanded it onto phones in early January. It's being brought in Russia. You have the Dia app in Ukraine. You have it. This digital ID linked with central bank digital currency is the new global system for currency. For me, for us, we're quite naive to think that they're going to give us any autonomy and have a currency functioning on our own unless we demand it. Because the people have always had the power and will continue to have the power. But people tend to be lazy and want to delegate their thinking to mainstream media. They want to delegate their responsibilities to the government, that the government take care of them. They want to delegate their parenting to schools. So you get the government that you deserve, and that's the harsh reality. But people need to be standing up and saying, no, we're not going to accept your currency, your control. We're going to create our own currency. And that it could be an absolute plethora of cryptocurrencies that can be traded within each other. So there is the potential there, but right now it's not functioning like that.
Yeah, it's so crazy when you understand that everything is going to one direction, and globally speaking. Yes. And to be honest, it was always in one direction. But without the internet, without this Google that you can be connected with everything, we had no idea. We're living in our normal lives. But now we see that everything is going to the same direction. What is going to happen? Yeah, what is going to happen to Europe? So Europe, so the Russia, Brazil, China, India do not need Europe, but Europe has a lot of technology and knowledge that we don't have in the underdeveloped countries.
But you have the rare earth metals, and with the rare earth metals, you can hold back Europe. So Europe might have the skills and the ideas, but without the rare earths, these electronics can't be created. Even with green technology, the rare earths are essential for that. What I would see happening in Europe is more likely than not a fracturing of alliance. There's some that will maintain an alliance to the WEF, and others will move towards Brexit. Germany is in a dire position right now, because they have the businesses sitting fighting back, saying, with these sanctions, you're destroying German businesses, and they are more into community banking. So Germany functions differently in that they have lots of small businesses. That's how they're set up, and that's why they're so successful. And that's being attacked right now. So I'd be interested to see what the pushback is in Germany, which is dependent on Russian fuel. But generally, all over Europe, you have 40%, an average of 40% dependent on Russian fuel. So while they are pushing these sanctions, it is a case of them punching themselves in the face, hoping to hurt Russia, as you say, and I'm in complete agreement. Russia does not need Europe at all. With the alliance with China and India and just BRICS in general, Russia has positioned itself very well in that alliance to come out quite high in the currency. Right now, the currency is in a free fall, and it's a race to the bottom. So the fight is for positioning the currency, the global currency, at the far end of this. And that's where Russia seems to be hedging themselves. Now, if you look, they have been buying up gold from 2004, almost back in their currency by gold. So when they increase their currency, they're buying up gold. China, I think according to Gold, World Gold Council, they're saying that they have about 2,000 tons. China never export any gold, and they have exported in 2000, I think, 7,000 tons. So that figure is completely askew. It's more likely, if you do the maths, it's quite probable that it's around 31,000 tons of gold. So, and 15,000 of that would be in the hands of the government. That's double what America has. China is the dominant force moving forward. If they back the yuan with gold, now it won't be backed, it'll be pegged too, because there would be enough for a backing. But if they peg it to something like that, it's going to really do damage. And I feel that that's what Russia is doing. Russia is flexing by pegging the ruble. It's only like a 3-month window, but they're basically firing warning shots, seeing what they're capable of. And if they were to just say, okay, we're just going to cut off all energy to the rest of Europe will be in chaos. America has to maintain this battle with Russia, because if they don't, they're going to push for military, because they realize that they're in an economic war that they cannot win. So they're going to try and force through a military war to crush Russia. I don't see them succeeding in any of that. But I don't see any other way out for America. They have no cards left to play.
Yeah, this is, and if America fails, South America will fail with them. Even though Brazil is very rich in all the natural resources, our economy runs through the vision, the mission, the strength of the America. Yeah. So it's extremely complicated. But we are we're talking only about the problem. How can we bring solutions?
For me, the solution is, there's a couple of solutions. One, it's be your own central banker. So take care, what I was saying about delegating, take back responsibility and take back control of every aspect of your life, of your finances, because we delegate our finances away. And that's why people are going to, with the demographic issue, a lot of people are going to find out when they go for their pension that their pension does not exist. So what I did was I bought property as my pension, because that can generate an income. Do not hold your savings in a fiat currency. You would be all too aware of this, that is failing, because your purchasing power is being eroded rapidly. So move it into something that is a hedge against inflation. It can be any tangible. Precious metals are just ease of liquidity and the known hedge against inflation. They're a safe haven asset. Be self-sustainable as possible, self-sufficient as possible. So do learn to grow your own food, educate your children, take care of your own finances, because then if you are self-sufficient, you get to choose if you need help or not. You don't have to beg from Satan's hand. You get to choose, because you have that autonomy. The best way to be self-sufficient is to work within small communities. Ideally, it should be 15 to 25 people, and like a network extended from there, but you have a solid group of people that you work with, that is your community, that you all lean on and rely on each other. And if you keep it small, it's more functional. I see that as the only solution out of this, because as I said, this debt-based consumption economy has failed. There is no going back. It's broken, and we're in a ratchet system right now. So every time we take a step forward and give up more control, there's no getting that control back without a mass revolution, which I don't think that I'm going to see in my lifetime. It tends to be a generation or two before people do stand up. So be as self-sufficient, take responsibility back. Stop being distracted by the news, by the media, by everything is made to distract you from standing in your own power, and work within communities. For me, that is the solution, and that's where your concept of cryptocurrencies can branch out, because if you create it within your community, there was somebody in New York created their own currency. There was a lot of ledger work and paperwork, but I mean, this was before, so now with the computers it would be a lot easier. You can have your own little bit of currency in your community that you can network out with other communities and branch out from there. And there is the possibility of global baskets of cryptocurrencies that are traded globally. And if we build our own system that way, right now, it's a juggernaut. It's heading towards a cliff. And if we try and get in front of it and stop it, we're going to be the first off the cliff. So if you create a different infrastructure, those on the juggernaut can jump off onto it. They're afraid. So they're jumping into nothing, so they're just going to stay on. But if they see communities being built and an infrastructure of an economy and classes, then they're more likely to jump off, and that will expand. That for me is the only way I can see out of it. I do agree with them that we do need to move back into a circular economy. With the debt-based system, everything was made to fall apart in 2 years, get another one, replace, constantly consume. Their idea is you will own nothing and be happy, you will rent what you need. That's because they plan to go back to how it was before, where things were made to last instead of made to fall apart, so you had to replace. So I would agree with that part. Personally, not a fan of the huge consumer lifestyle anyway. I don't like waste, and I think that we have become very wasteful, and it's not making us happy. I think if we move back towards communities, we'll be a lot more happy in our own lives anyway.
No, that's for sure. We first of all, with all this technology, we are never happy. We're always seeing what is coming next, what is coming next.
Yeah.
You are in a place and you want to see what is next. We're not appreciating life anymore as a global community. For sure we need to change that. When I developed FreedomeE, I was very stressed about people from underdeveloped countries. So Brazil, we have Europe in Brazil, we have Africa in Brazil, and we have Bangladesh in Brazil. We have Ethiopia in Brazil. So we have the first country, we have the middle country, and we have the third country in Brazil. It's a huge country. And we have lack of education in some parts, lots of education. We have a lot of corruption. Brazil, it's divided in areas that we have this areas feudalism system. So this is why Brazil, it's not Argentina, because we still have an area feudalism system. But thinking about a woman, especially in the third world country, women are the ones who take care of the children. Man doesn't care. So they are the ones that bring up the food and bring up education and organize the family so the kids won't go to prostitution or to drug dealers. So when I thought about FreedomeE, that thinking globally to see all the solutions that those small communities are bringing, because we learn from others, but acting locally. We have to think globally, but act locally. And then with the needs that we have, for instance, there's a lot of place in Brazil where you don't have energy, where you don't have water. The same thing happens in Africa. The same things happen in Asia. So how can we help now these people to be connected to globally, to have the basic things, and then after starting to organize themselves to grow? Because I understand that with nothing, with that poverty that I saw, I went to study this guy from Bangladesh, Professor Yunus. He earned the Nobel Prize in India for lending money for more than 90 million women in India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. And he was lending from $50 to $500. And he was asking interest of 33% a month of these ladies. So I will give you, have one cow, I will give you money to take care of 6 cows. So you'll be able to give milk to 6 families. The other one will have money to produce 24 chickens.
That would be,
and this is how, but
yeah.
Yes, but the problem is without education and having this money from the lords of Europe that get this money, lend this money with interest for Africans, and then Africans sell to, it's just a commission over commission over commission, where a group of people earn a lot, and these women, they're working like crazy to give back the loan. And if they have a stomachache, so I have 10 cows, but I put my son to go to school. I didn't go to school. And my son needs to buy a pencil, and it's not in my budget. If I buy the pencil to him, I won't be able to pay back the 33% of the interest. And this is where the conflicts started to go. And then people, they're lending the money, say, oh, but you have 60% of risk that she's not going to pay it. Of course, because the money without education, the money without opportunities for these people to grow, not to earn only the money that you said that she's going to earn, it's going to flunk. So how can we help those communities now? Because there are millions and millions of people that have no basics. And this is shocking. So when I decided to do FreedomeE, I said, how can I put a woman that has education, that is well-centered, with a good health in Europe, to help this woman in Africa, in Asia, in Brazil, but not only by giving the money or loaning the money, but also together with opportunities, education, development. So this is why I think that uniting the communities there are in different levels, and to see how can we help each other. So here I have a community in UK of 25 people, but imagine in Bangladesh, in India, in Africa, even in Brazil, that they have loads of children, the population is huge. How can we organize those communities together?
It would be, if you had a sponsorship, you could have a sponsorship program where you have somebody who maybe is a little bit more educated and financially stable, helping out a woman that isn't as such. And not only can you offer what you have, for suggestions that they maybe haven't seen, there's also, you could operate in terms of community banking. It doesn't have to be a small community, it can be a global community with a Dragon's Den kind of style of investment. So if you want to loan a loan of money, you're given it. There's, maybe a panel or whatever that make the decision, that this is a viable, this is going to work, and it's not about huge interest. Instead of a huge interest, you get a percentage of their business moving forward, because that way, if it's to your benefit for them to be successful, so you're going to have the community helping them out and getting them successful, and then that money is a percentage of that money is going to pool back into the community bank, and they're going to be successful along with it. So it's a win-win situation, but it's also, when they lose, everybody loses. So the bank loses, they'll lose. So it's in your interest, within a framework of a community, if you took that and adopted a sponsorship program along with that somebody had maybe, a few people advising them that they could contact for advice. It's in everybody's best interest to win, and you could create a community currency from that. There's the potential for it.
Yeah. This is what we're doing in FreedomeE. So you can be a consumer, you can be an investor, you can be a seller, you can be an influencer, and you can help on the NGOs to educate people to be in this ecosystem. And you start saying education is everything. If we had a money education since we were little kids, and not only money education, but also how to deal with people. These are the two things that we need to understand: how to deal with people, how to deal with nature, and how to deal with money. If we knew this, the rest, it's not that important. This is the most important. This is how we construct a community.
But it's education. Also get away from the idea that you need to get rich. There's this idea that, well, generally when you get rich, it tends to be off somebody else's sweat equity, and I think that we need to move away from that. And if you create a community, you're not as interested in being wealthy as you are with a community. It's with the world in a global scale. It's about what can I get for me. When you operate within small communities, your perspective changes, and it's what can I do for my community? So that's why if you keep it small, but you can create that concept on a global scale by connecting people. because then it's, well, what I am sponsoring this lady. And the thing is, then you have people that are more capable sponsoring you, and you can go to them and it's like, well, what can I give them today? And if you are seeing a face behind a screen, because we have this ability now, there is this wanting everything to be human, computer, human, but we can take advantage of that we have connection with the people. Then you're not as likely, if you're seeing these people, you're not as likely to want to be greedy. You're going to be more willing to want to give back and keep it small. Like create, you can have lots of different communities of 15 to 25. It can be your community, the people that you actually see. It can be a global community if you're 15 to 20 people that are in a similar profession to yours. You know, you can have lots of those, and you actually have a face behind it, and you're setting up relationships with people. And when you have an awareness of another human being, you're more likely to want to see them succeed and want to help them. Because when they're
so bring back trust to our daily business, daily consumption. Trust. I think trust is the way to go. Have you ever been to Brazil, Melissa?
No, I have not. I'd love to go though.
No, you have to go. We're putting together groups of women that they want to learn about money, because in our education, we weren't educated to talk about money. We weren't educated to give a price to our services. So I don't know if it's due to the Catholic religion and now to the Protestant religion that we have in Brazil. So it's not beautiful to talk about money. So if you have money, you are insane. See, it's complicated. But now I see that not only in Brazil, but for all those 45 countries that I have been, Salvador was one of them. Women are not afraid of asking for help. So I think that women, like when I called you and I said, Melissa, I am a huge fan of your work. I read everything you said. I think you say things in a very, 1 plus 1 is 2, in a very easy way to understand. And I think this is the kind of education that we need. Simple education. To understand how things go, and with this information, how can we move on? So have you ever think about giving, I don't know, courses about how to invest your money, where to invest your money, how to do economic plan for your life? You said, no, you have to be self-sufficient. How can we be self-sufficient in an easy way? Buy land.
Robert Kiyosaki's book was, it was probably one of the best ways of describing it. It's the difference between what rich people teach their kids and what poor people teach their kids. And what rich people teach their kids is, you take an amount of money, you invest it, you figure out a way. So you say that it's £3,000 a month that it takes you to survive. So you need to figure out a way of generating an income to meet that £3,000. So that you have that, so that so you go out and work and figure out ways of making that happen for you. And you take your money, you invest your money. So you start off with £100, you figure out how to make that £100 into £200, that £200 into 300, 400, 600, 2,000, etc. And then you maybe buy a property, and that generates you an income. And there's a million different ways of making that happen. And then when you reach that's my outgoings, my ingoing, and my ingoings match my outgoings, and then you expand from that, and you keep on investing. That's what rich people teach their children. So, and at the end of that, you buy your Mercedes, and you buy your handbag, and you buy all of that, whatever it is that you want. But your original purpose is, to take that money, add to it, add to it, add to it again. And what poor people tend to teach their kids is, if you get £1,000, go and buy something that has a label on it, or something that makes you look rich. Instead of having instead of having the £300 handbag, have a £10 handbag with £290 in it that you're going to invest. So it's getting that idea into people's heads. It can be very difficult for some people too. Some people are just living on the breadline, but there's always little ways, you can always put a little bit aside and move on from that. And it's about growing your wealth and getting your wealth to generate an income for you so that you're making money when you are asleep. And that's when you're actually getting freedom, instead of constantly. But it's an age-old, like I said, I studied theology. My degree is in theology, and I could take you back to the time of Jesus, and what he was actually rebelling against was the exact same situation that we're in right now, that they realized that with these farmers, if they gave them loans, they wouldn't be able to afford the loans because they could never make ends meet, and they would foreclose on their farms, and they could take over their farms and expand and make things bigger. This is the way it always goes. But we never, as you said, before we had the internet, we never had the information to piece it together, what was happening and what was going wrong. The danger of the internet now for agendas is that we have all the information at our fingertips, and we can work out solutions, because when we know the problems, we can work out the solutions. This is why they're moving into the misinformation drive, because it's not misinformation. We now are putting the pieces together, and we are at a time in humanity where we can really make significant changes, that we are never here again with governments and centralization, that we are truly decentralized, that everybody has a chance and a chance to work and a chance to better themselves, and the education of knowing how it's done, and not being fooled into this concept that of what makes you important, that it's external things, of realizing that it is here about building a wealth and building a life, and moving on the world in evolution into that agenda, rather than just the constant greed. Because what I say to people is, well, you have two bank accounts. You have your financial bank account, but you also have your spiritual bank account. And that's where if you want to know what you own, die tomorrow and see what you own, because you're taking none of this with you. But what you're taking with you is the love you gave and the love you received, the kindness that you exhibited to other people. So with a community aspect of helping other people, it's creating that concept that you're putting into your other bank account, your more spiritual bank account, and that can only build a better world for absolutely everybody in it, and raise everybody up, instead of your ego leading you that you're more important because you drive a certain kind of car, live in a certain kind of house, wear a certain kind of clothes, that's what makes you important, that create a more spiritual aspect of what makes you important.
Yeah, I agree with you. And growing up, more we grow up, more we don't care about those things. You want to have peace.
When you're younger, you want to gather all the things. You think it's important and you have to have everything. But as you get older, you actually want less. It near feels like it's weighing you down, and you're trying to get rid of, you stop gathering things as you get older. So it's trying to put an old head on young shoulders.
Yes, it's true. Melissa, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
For me, it's an honor to have you in FreedomeE. Let's see, how can we collaborate? How can we teach women how to invest, especially in third world country, and how can common people in Europe, how can they together can invest with their time, with their mentors, with their knowledge, with the low cost of the money that they have here to the developed countries. Let's see, how can we move forward with this? I will send you everything about FreedomeE for you to take a look. What we're doing right now, we are going to start having investors to invest on us. but I don't want to leave the purpose of FreedomeE. For me, the purpose of collaboration, of having 5 incomes is extremely important. As you said, my grandmother, she ran away from Italy after the Second World War, and she got all her jewelry. When she arrived in Brazil, they were worth nothing, only the gold. And then she was always saying to us, you have to invest in gold. You can have fake jewelry, but you have gold in your bank. This is what you have, because if something happens, you sell gold right away.
It's always had value. That's the thing. Do I know that cryptocurrencies are going to be around in 100 years? No. Do I know that gold is going to be around in 100 years? 100% yes.
Yes. So we have to have all the money, all the productivity that we achieve. We have to have it tagged in gold. That's for sure. Well, thank you very much for your time. It is an honor, and I want to do more and see how can I connect you with more people in Brazil or in other parts of the world.
Absolutely.
To have your knowledge. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Came here just to be around. I came here to break bread through the sounds. We all have to earn competition into collaboration. Me and you, that's for real, true. To be free economically, we got to have the power to choose. It's you and me. We need to know the values of this and that. We need to know what we buy and where we get it at. Invest in the truth, consuming what we do. It's the freedom for me.